this might not be the most profitable way to do it, but we have to kind of think about what is the end goal actually, right? Is my goal Firo, or is my goal privacy for everyone, right? And yes, Firo is meant to do this, and I feel like yes, this is the best vision of how I feel that this would solve this particular issue. But if at the end of the day, this sounds really bad, but if at the end of the day, Firo doesn't win, maybe another privacy cryptocurrency like Nero or something just becomes too good, right? And they used our technology, I would still consider Firo a success.
Okay, welcome, Reuben. Thank you so much for joining me today. We will discuss blockchain and how it helps people get more freedom and maybe liberate themselves from the tyranny that has already started showing itself in their lives. So first of all, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Mandy. I mean, you reached out to me over Twitter, so it's great that we are having this so soon after that. But it's a real honor to be on your podcast. My name is Reuben. I'm actually based in Malaysia. Prior to joining blockchain, I was probably a lawyer for about 10 years. I actually did a lot of work in like how to draft laws and institutional frameworks in that sense. And I guess I started in cryptocurrencies in about late 2012, beginning of 2013. First Malaysians to accept cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin then as a form of payment online. And why I actually came across it was back in 2007, I started a VPN company. I think it was, back then VPNs were actually considered taboo. Like, why would you need a VPN? It's you must be doing illegal activity, which is kind of like where we are at with like privacy coins like ourselves. But now it's so normalized. Everything has a VPN now, right? And back then, although we were doing, completely legal business, there was nothing wrong with running a VPN company. We had, PayPal suspending our account now and then. And we were doing nothing wrong. It's, I even recently heard of a company, they have like several millions of dollars in PayPal and they got frozen, and it's, seriously affecting the viability of the company, and PayPal would not give a reason. We experienced something similar as well. So this was kind of frustrating, obviously, we're not breaking the law, and we're just providing a simple service. And someone suggested, hey, why don't you take a look into this Bitcoin thing, at least because, you're all about privacy, yes, you don't take logs, but then that's kind of linked to your company, there's a risk for me. Why don't I use Bitcoin? And that's kind of how I discovered Bitcoin, because, it's like, oh, what's this magic internet money that I can receive? That was my first, like foray into Bitcoin and blockchains in general. Obviously, as time went along, I realized like the limitation actually private as or anonymous as people thought it was. And then I started delving into different types of currencies with a privacy focus. So I've been full-time. I mean, although I've been like around in blockchain and cryptocurrency since about 2013. I went full-time at the end of 2017. And since then have been leading Firo, which is a privacy-preserving cryptocurrency, or as some would say, digital cash. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Reuben, for introducing yourself. And yeah, can you tell us what got really your attention in blockchain technology? Blockchain technology, which was really first embodied and invented, you could say, by Bitcoin. What got really your attention? Why did you think this maybe was some sort of revolutionary technology?
Yeah, well, as mentioned, like, I realized how how to put this in a nice way. I felt like my balls were in financial institutions' hands, yeah, and all these middlemen, right? And like my business can suddenly be affected just by this payment processor or PayPal saying, yeah, this isn't cool. I don't like what you're doing, even though it's not illegal. And it had very, very serious ramifications, right? And on top of that, like back then, PayPal, and even now, the transaction charge, whenever I receive payment from PayPal, they were taking like 3.4%, and on top of them like a 50 cents US dollars on top of that. And for my a VPN service like costs like $10 a month, that's a lot of money. It's like that's a significant proportion that is lost to PayPal alone. So that was really, really frustrating. And blockchain back then, especially Bitcoin fees back then were like in a couple of cents. And it was also cross-border. I didn't have to pay silly wire fees and wait 3 to 4 working days. Things were like, moving money using cryptocurrency just made a lot more sense back then. And I guess the whole idea, is of self-sovereignty, right? That means I am in control of my own money. I just need to put out a Bitcoin address out there and no one can freeze it, and say, no, you can't receive this money anymore, right? So I thought that was really powerful. So, people say, there was this period of time, people saying, oh, blockchain, not cryptocurrency. I would actually argue the killer app of blockchains is cryptocurrency, and is enabling this whole new form of digital cash that is like not controlled by any one single entity. And obviously I feel like these values have been eroded a little bit in the past couple of years. But yeah, I saw the initial promise of having this alternate financial system that is supposed to be more fair. Obviously, as time went by, you can see the weaknesses and stuff that we can go into later. But I still think it's a very, very important part to have this alternate financial system, especially with the rise of central bank digital currencies and CBDCs. There needs to be this kind of check and balance between this, what I call like authoritarian money.
For people who are not familiar with blockchain, it essentially allows for decentralized decision making, right? It kind of removes this necessity for these centralized authorities, entities, which are essential, right? Like, I don't know, government, banks, and things like that. But yeah, suddenly you have this technology which decentralizes things and makes it possible to decide on something in a trustless manner. Without trusting specifically one entity. So what do you think this will change? This could change in the future. I know that Firo was used, for example, for an election, an internal election in a political party. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So this was quite an interesting use case. I wouldn't call it like a perfect election. Obviously, there were issues, but when you start involving politics, things are seldom perfect. I mean, everyone kind of knows this, right? And what happened was the Thai Democrat Party, which was one of the major opposition parties in Thailand, and was previously the ruling party as well. They were kind of like losing. They were kind of losing relevance, right? And previously, what had happened was who should be the leader of the Thai Democrat Party? And usually it'll be a bunch of big wigs in their like higher council saying he's the guy, right? And the person that was leading it, his name is Abhisit. He is a former prime minister of Thailand. His mandate to lead the Democrat Party didn't seem that strong. There were other people who wanted to kind of like take over. And for the very first time that he was saying, all right, maybe we should have what we call a primary election where every single Democrat Party member can directly elect the party leader. So, this is a huge departure from the old thing where it's just the upper council that decides it, right? But how would you enable this? Because there are several million registered, of course, don't know how many active, but several million registered Democrat Party members. And so the whole idea was, well, okay, let's do some sort of e-voting, and all of that. But halfway through this e-voting process, a lot of the other stakeholders, like the other candidates and stuff, are saying, well, if we were going to do this vote, how do I know that, it's not going to be tampered with, right? If it's an e-voting, if whoever controls the server is going to be able to see into the votes, to count the votes, and to basically insert votes at will, right? So one of the founder or the co-founder, his name is Parmin Imson. He is a Thai, and he actually served in the cyber warfare department as some kind of to protect the Thailand's national cybersecurity interests. He recommended and say, hey, look, we have this public blockchain. All right, it's called ZCoin. Even though I'm the founder, or we are the founders, we have no control over it, right? I mean, we can steer the direction, but it's not like such a we cannot interfere with transactions or make money come out of thin air, right? Why don't we use ZCoin, or Firo as it's now called, as kind of like a public ledger, kind of like a neutral public ledger where people can say, all right, once it's on the blockchain, no one can change it, right? That means, votes cannot be inserted and stuff. Once it's recorded, and everyone can see this. And so our blockchain was actually used. So all the votes were casted. About 127,000 votes were cast on our blockchain. The election results were not contested. Everyone was rather happy with it. And I think to today, I don't think there has been any sort of large scale blockchain election since then. Obviously the technical stuff, there were ways to make this better, which we already came up with a new voting system that uses blockchain. I wouldn't call it our core value, but we can do it. And that might be a side project that's coming on, that's called Aura. But yeah, that's a little bit of context as to what happened. A quite interesting use case of a blockchain. It was less about the voters, but more about pleasing the stakeholders, meaning the candidates, the election commission, to have this neutral record of votes. Yeah,
it's very interesting. I think it was back in 2018 already, so it means
that's right. Yeah, unfortunately, the party lost the elections, and there wasn't any sort of impetus to do this again. But then the technology is still there. We've improved on it by leaps and bounds since then. So we hope to see this in the future. And there are some interested parties right now that may be interested in using our protocol to have what we call private but verifiable voting, right? Because you need to know that the voters are citizens and the right people, but you don't want to reveal which way they voted. And so we have the technology to do that in a trustless manner. Yeah.
I think it's a great use case for blockchain because people think they live in democracies, but actually they live in a representative democracy, meaning you elect representatives,
yeah,
which are like a layer between you and the ideal of democracy, and most of the time they do betray you and they implement the agenda of whoever is controlling them, really. Yeah, when you have a direct access to democracy, yeah, by voting yourself for whoever you want to vote for, this is actual democracy, and it was like that in ancient Greece. Well, it wasn't ideal because slaves didn't vote. I think women didn't vote either, probably. So that was problematic. But in terms of expressing your voice, yeah. Now it's possible to do it with blockchain, despite the very large number of people. In ancient Greece, of course, there wasn't as many people. It was just a city, a city state. It was much smaller and much easier to directly vote.
Well, if you take a look at 127,000, that was probably the entire voting population of Rome, or yes, there may be a million population, but how many people are actually eligible to vote? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, I don't know the exact numbers. I might be wrong, but yeah.
That's right.
One thing I would like kind of caution is that blockchains alone do not solve the voting system alone, because blockchains by its very nature are transparent, right? And if you're just recording votes in a naive manner, that means I'm like, A voted for B. You don't want that on the blockchain permanently. So we have to introduce other type of privacy protocols for the blockchain to store, but these protocols allow you to verify. That means as a voter or as an outsider, I can verify that no votes have been inserted, everything has been counted, my vote has not been altered, but without giving out information to everyone else. So this is a new type of mathematics, field of mathematics called zero knowledge proofs. So to prove something without actually showing the exact thing. So I just want to say, blockchains alone is not going to solve this problem. You need a whole protocol and system behind that. And Firo does have that.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Technology. Blockchain itself isn't enough, absolutely. So can you tell us more about Firo beyond this very interesting use case? What is Firo? What are its goals? What are its values? And who is behind it, really?
So we have a core team. We have two founders, Porman and myself, right? And we have a core team of about 10 to 12 people or so. And a lot of them are developers, researchers. Some of them are like community managers. So we are still very primarily community based. None of us, it's not like some of the newer projects which are venture capital backed, or they have had some sort of initial coin offering or ICO and stuff like that. This is still relatively community based. Now, what is Firo? Firo is basically a privacy preserving cryptocurrency. Basically, it's like Bitcoin, but we preserve your privacy. That has always been the number one goal, to kind of be private digital cash that is owned by no one, right? Because cash on its own is anonymous. Obviously, it's issued by the state and all that sort of stuff. So we want it in the digital form, like cash, but it's not beholden to any country. It cannot be confiscated and stuff like that. And that is the original and the most primary goal of Firo. Obviously, as time passed, that we have started expanding the use cases of Firo, including privacy voting. And now we are also wanting to become privacy as a service, right? So if you want to build your own tokens, you can build them on Firo and enjoy the same privacy features as Firo, rather than starting your own new blockchain and doing all of that. And there are many, many good use cases for this. For example, I want to hold my own election. I want to have my own voting token. Yep, I don't need to create a whole blockchain from scratch. I can just use it, right? Or if I want to have some sort of asset-backed coin, right? I want to, backed by gold, backed by stablecoin, but I don't want it to be, public to everyone. I can issue these coins on Firo as well. So yes, we are still primarily cryptocurrency, digital cash, right, with privacy features. But at the same time, we are all for expanding the use cases of Firo. And in a way, once you start building on Firo, then Firo also becomes like a utility token that you use to access services on the Firo blockchain. So I think that would be the main, I guess key ideas of what Firo is. Firo's code is totally open source. It's all licensed under MIT. That means, MIT license basically do anything you want, right? You can commercialize it. You can do anything about it. It's very, very permissive. And the community, although there's a core team with, obviously there is strong I mean, obviously we have a big say, right? And because we're doing the code, we know the project the best, and obviously most of the community trusts us, right? Because we tell them, what our opinions are. But any sort of very, very important decisions, obviously we need to get community buy-in, right? If we're changing the tokenomics, if we're changing like the consensus mechanism and stuff like that. And usually what this happens is then we will reach out to the community, have public polls where people can express their opinions and come into like a community town hall, tell us what they think. And obviously, if it's kind of like 50-50, we probably won't implement it. But if it's like a lot of support, then we will implement it. Because at the end of the day, you can say the core team has a lot of control, but because Firo is open source, the blockchain, everything, if we become too tyrannical and suddenly, Reuben, I'm going to give you like 2 million coins, right? There's nothing stopping another group of people to just fork the project, take the blockchain over, and not give me $1 million or something like that, right? And the blockchain will continue as long as the community will support that, that version of Firo.
The fact that the code of Firo and other projects which are under a free software license, this is an extremely powerful tool that unfortunately many people aren't familiar with. It's mostly geeks and technology types, but it's extremely powerful concept against tyranny, because the code is there. It's you can read it already, but you can also copy it and change it and do whatever you want with it, including start a project which is a competitor of the initial project.
Yeah. And you can even like copy all the balances over, right? So like
exactly, you can fork.
Yeah, can fork. So that in itself is a kind of a control, check and balance with our control. Yeah.
Another very powerful thing is that I mean, people always ask the question, who is behind this or that project, because they want to know who is influencing maybe this or that project. Can you tell us how the project finances itself, including, for example, the core team, which spends a lot of time, if not their full time, on the project? How are they compensated?
We have a couple of funding mechanisms. One obviously is donations, which actually is one of the biggest contributors to our development right now. I mean, we had this company called Arcadia and Receipt donate about like 160,000 US dollars for us to do our audits, to do our code like that. And we also have a community crowdfunding platform at funding.firo.org where anyone can basically crowdfund something as long as the community is interested in funding it. So that's one part. We also have a percentage of the block reward. So, in Bitcoin, new coins come into being every 10 minutes or so, right? So for us, Firo, of course, new coins come into being, but 15% of that goes to the core team. So what that means is that, when new coins are issued, we get 15% of that, and we use that to develop. And, people will say, oh, it's a tax and whatnot. Well, first of all, to me, hopefully this will be temporary, but it is not easy to bootstrap and expect people to dedicate their lives full-time to a job, because they have mouths to feed, family to feed. And if you are trying to develop something really meaningful, you need full-time people. Like for example, there are many other privacy coins, many other projects. They can just take the technology and copy it and bam. Yes, someone can do that to Firo as well, but we develop our own technology. We have cryptographers and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say that any of them are being paid like even lower than market rate. So they're doing it because they believe in it, but obviously they have to be paid something, right? And if you talk about how much is that? Well, it's about 16,000 Firo a month, which today is like what, 40,000 US dollars a month, supporting 10 people. It's not a lot, because we have lots of other stuff to do. We have to pay for our infrastructure, we have to pay for GitHub, all these small little things tend to add up. And that being said,
exactly.
That being said, we are listed on some of the largest exchanges. We have like a very thriving ecosystem as well. So I would say eventually I hope that Firo goes to become so big that this 15% block reward can is not really needed anymore. But I would also want to caution that there are also people don't realize that when the project has no like inbuilt funding, it tends to be influenced by parties who are able to give that funding. For example, with Bitcoin, right? There are people that believe that, the current core developers may not have the best interest of heart. They're trying to pursue their own thing because they are being paid by Blockstream. There's only a couple of companies that are actually funding this, and because they are the core developers, they have a very, very strong influence in the direction of the coin. This is why Bitcoin, you never hear them talking about digital cash anymore. I mean, this is very, very controversial, which might get me canceled, but if you take a look at the Satoshi Nakamoto's paper, it says, P2P electronic cash. Now it's like, no, Bitcoin is a store of value. That sort of thing. That narrative has kind of taken hold. To me, my opinion is that the narrative has kind of been hijacked, and in a way, Bitcoin's values are being eroded. So yeah, I am still a believer in Bitcoin. Don't get me wrong. I still think it's really important to maintain it, but of course, I have worries as to are we having the best people working? Is Bitcoin still having the values aligned to what it was originally meant to be? They don't really care about privacy. Lightning Network. There's some element of centralization. Your coins may not be actually your coins. So that sort of things do worry me, and I just want to tell people some people say, oh, death tax, it's really bad, but at least with the death tax, we are completely aligned with the project. We do not get the money up front. We get it over time. So the success of the project also means the success of the team. And yes, it is an element of centralization. But now in this day and age, with the cryptocurrency space being everywhere, you need a consistent source of funding or you will not attract talent. That's my argument for that. Yeah. So I guess we have donations and we have a part of the block reward. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it makes sense. You need to protect the independence of the core team by providing a stream of revenue which is not provided by some private entities. And what can you tell us about the contributions of volunteers? I'm sure there's plenty of volunteers who are contributing to your project. What nature? What is the nature of their contributions?
It can be in many ways. Of course, one way is to just look through our code and you see something wrong, fix it. Even our website, it's on GitHub. You see something wrong, anyone can submit a PR request, and if it's reasonable, we'll fix it. Right. And we have had some community contributions for security disclosures and stuff like that. So we have had meaningful contributions, not just from within the Firo community, but even from other communities like Monero, right? Monero, which is also number one in terms of market cap privacy cryptocurrency. So we also contribute to them. Our privacy protocol, a lot of the key ideas were actually being used by Monero in their next gen privacy protocol. So I would say yes, volunteers that not necessarily just within the Firo space, and that's on the code level. Obviously, people have also been donating, like small little donations here and there. Some people say, oh, I want to be a community manager for the Turkish community. I want to be I want to translate stuff. I want to, organize events, right? And there is a way you can either do it just as a volunteer and do it for free, which we have some of it, or you can apply to the community. There is a separate community fund that is run by not by the core team, and people can apply to it to say, okay, I want to fund this. I want some money. What do you guys think? And it's a cool idea. So you can even stickers, memes, or anything. I think anyone can contribute. You can even like develop decentralized exchanges. You can provide liquidity. There are many, many ways to support the project. And we also have a lot of miners and also like mining pools that also have been developing their software and contributing in an indirect way towards Firo's security and also ecosystem as well.
All of this will sound new to many people who are not like geeks, because it's like at odds with how free market capitalism works, with the companies competition with each other, and the survival of the fittest and things like that. So here you have your project, which shares its code completely openly, and anybody can use it, and and your competitors, which you don't see really as like life or death competitors, like lethal competitors, but you see them like maybe a source of good ideas too. So you exchange ideas, you exchange code, and it's all okay. So yeah, it's based on sharing really, and selflessness and things like that, and it's really completely at odds with how free market capitalism works. So do you meet sometimes people who are skeptical about this this new model, you could say? Well, it has existed for a very long time, obviously, but now it's just applied to technology. Do you meet people who are skeptical, and what are the main reasons of their skepticism? Where do they like can't get it? What is blocking really inside of them, do you think?
Honestly, I myself am skeptical. Like I totally support this model, but it is increasingly difficult to operate like this, right? Because the cryptocurrency space used to be like this really like community-based thing, like when we used to talk about Bitcoin. Yes, of course, price appreciation is one thing, but it was only one thing. It was like, oh, how are you mining? How are you getting more performance here? Or like, oh wow, this is this exchange, or how to use this wallet. It was a community of sharing and introducing people to this revolutionary new technology, and people were just like everyone was very excited because like, wow, I'm at the cusp of this new thing. And like, when I joined, when I started in blockchain and Bitcoin, I never thought like, oh yeah, I'm going to get rich from this. It was just like, wow, this is fun. This is like really, really cool stuff, right? And in a way, that's why I felt like this is kind of like the OG type of, original gangster type of way of approaching cryptocurrencies. But nowadays, that's quite different, right? Everyone's like, yeah, Bitcoin to 100,000, laser eyes focus, and all of that, right? It's very, very focused on the price. And even the mining ecosystem, which used to be, let me mine a coin that is fun and support it, right? Now it's like, which gives me the highest dollar for the power that it is. So it is increasingly difficult to do that, right? But this might not be the most profitable way to do it, but we have to kind of think about what is the end goal actually, right? Is my goal Firo, or is my goal privacy for everyone, right? And yes, Firo is meant to do this, and I feel like, yes, this is the best vision of how I feel that this would solve this particular issue. But if at the end of the day, this sounds really bad, but if at the end of the day, Firo doesn't win, maybe another privacy cryptocurrency like Nero or something just becomes too good, right? And they used our technology, I would still consider Firo a success, because the end goal is to build this, decentralized, privacy-resistant money, right? And if our work helps in that regard, right, then that's a thing. But if I'm only thinking about Firo, if I'm only thinking about the price, then I should not be, open sourcing my stuff. I will keep some stuff closed source. I would not be sharing my information. And there are other projects that kind of toe this line in a very interesting way. Like you can be open source, but you don't describe things. So it becomes your code although it's open, it's very, very hard. So only a few people in the world can understand it. So it's almost like closed source because it's not properly documented or stuff like that. And that's why, be careful. Some people claim to be open source, but they have there are other ways to obscure your technology and stuff like that. But we really believe that, look, maybe not the most profitable way to do things, but we really think that we believe in our vision, we believe in our core values. And I feel that if you promote these values, you will attract similar-minded people. If you're just talking about moon boys and people getting rich, you will attract those people. But if you're saying like values above all else, and bear markets are great. We're in the crypto bear market right now. Despite our price Firo hasn't done so well, we have people willing to stick around. There are people that still want to know what it is. People are still willing to donate. To me, that is more meaningful because we are building meaningful technology that can change the world. We are not compromising on our values, and we're really not scamming. And it's all a joint, it's a joint like project together. And I much prefer this rather than let's say, oh, let's go so big and just abandon our values. I mean, I think there's a balance to be had. You want to be big enough so that you're relevant. But if you take too many shortcuts to get there, it is very hard to extricate and say, go back to your values. It tends to be, let's just maintain the status quo. So, yeah, I don't know if that was a great answer, but it's kind of like a balance, right? I am not saying that, there's no such thing. And Firo has actually been at the butt end of being too sharing. Like there was this one time, we found a vulnerability in our privacy protocol that was also used and copied by many, many other projects. And we knew the problem. If we really wanted to kill the competition, we could have just hacked every single other chain and not tell them about it. And they would not even know it was from us, right? But what we did was we disclosed it to them, tell them like, look, there's this problem right now. Maybe you want to consider doing something. And instead of thanking us and whatnot, some of them went ahead and made a like an early disclosure and then say, we found this bug. I'm like, dude, we save your asses, like don't, and then you like hit us back like this. So yeah, we've been burned by our generosity, but I think that isn't a reason to abandon them. I think we'll do it with more caution in the future, but that's not going to stop us from doing it the right thing. And I feel that has attracted people that I genuinely care about, rather than just like pure mercenaries, which is what free market capitalism is. Yeah,
exactly. Well, yeah, great answer. And I love your comment about the end goal being like not necessarily Firo, but beyond Firo, providing a privacy solution, blockchain-based privacy solution for everyone to use, whether or not Firo as such survives. And
I mean, I definitely hope so. I'm not saying that Firo is not going to survive, but
absolutely, yeah, absolutely, I totally get it. And I think most people who are behind Firo have the same idea. That's great. So another problem which is hammering people's purchasing power around the world really is inflation. Right now, inflation has been crazy, and it will probably stick around for some time. And it is most likely not just due to the Russia-Ukraine war, but to the printing, excessive printing of money by the Fed, essentially. Because if the Fed prints a lot of money, it creates inflation. They raise their interest rates, and everybody else has to increase their interest rates because they need to align with the entity which controls what is considered as the world reserve currency. So now there's this big issue of there's too many dollars around, and creates a lot of inflation. but it's just this entity which is supposed to be independent, but then it is still under influence, which controls the issuance of the US dollar and the interest rate and so on. So what kind of monetary policy does Firo have, and how can it avoid this sort of situation where every dollar in its hands is losing value week after week?
So okay, my point of view is a bit nuanced, maybe a bit controversial. So a lot of people get really attracted to Bitcoin because they say, yeah, there'll be only 21 million coins ever. And no one can change its emission and stuff like that, right? Like they call it hard money. Okay, fine. Firo actually follows that same point of view. We have a similar number of coins. I guess the only difference is that instead of 10 minutes, our block times are 2.5 minutes. So we adjust that to match the amounts, right? So it also halves every 4 years. So we have the exact same emission cycle as Bitcoin. Now, whether this is the good thing, that is a question mark I have been asking the community for a while. Obviously, people say, yeah, it's coded within the protocol. I really, really think that people should stop saying code is law. Code is an expression of what the social consensus is, right? If for some reason, like everyone agrees, oh, yeah, let's just change the thing, you need social consensus to change the code, right? Obviously, now the 21 million hard limit is part of Bitcoin culture and stuff like that. So to actually change that is still possible, but it's very, very difficult. But it should not be, it is impossible, right? Because when Satoshi created this, he didn't know, well, does this thing actually make sense? Does it actually make sense to halve your supply abruptly every 4 years? It could have been maybe a better way to do it, right? And there's also this increasing question. I mean, this maybe gets into a bit of the technical details, because who secures the network? The network is being secured by miners for Bitcoin, right? Or we have a hybrid system that I wouldn't talk too much about, but let's just talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is being secured by miners. Miners currently earn from the block reward, which I don't know how much it is right now, but they earn from the block reward and a little bit from fees. It is a huge proportion, more than 90% of the reward comes from the block reward. Now that block reward halves every 4 years. So to maintain that same level of security, what do you expect miners to do? Either the price of Bitcoin continuously just goes up exponentially, which it has done, but it cannot do that forever. And I would say we're kind of reaching that point now where everyone's heard of Bitcoin, that sort of thing. It's not going to be like seeing like 100 times or something like that, right? If the price of Bitcoin doesn't increase and the mining subsidy keeps on decreasing, you're going to get less security for your coin. Can they subsist purely on fees? We have seen a declining trend that fees are not increasing at all, right? So to maintain this decentralization, if you are going to keep that $21 million limit, you will maybe end up with a chain that is not secure and that can be, taken advantage and manipulated off. This is a question that Bitcoin maxis are not asking themselves. Those who are in the know, who really know their stuff, they know this problem, but they're like, oh, maybe I should not express this because I don't want to be cancelled by the Bitcoin maxis. And this is a regular thing. So I feel like, yes, there is value in saying there is a hard limit and stuff like that. But at the same time, the key thing with the problem with the Fed is that it is decided by a very small group of people and it's kind of opaque. But if as the community can decide to say, oh yeah, we have this problem, let's address it, maybe we need to have a tail emission. So what is a tail emission? That means instead of a 21 million, we will say, okay, we will emit 1,000 coins every year forever. So people say, wow, the supply is infinite. But no, it's not really infinite. It's predicted and it's not changing, right? And I'm actually in favor of that, because that means, yes, there is always going to be some reward to secure the chain, but it also means that like it's not that easy to change. You need strong social consensus to change it. So what we are seeing, obviously, with the regular Joes really have no say in this, right? Where at least with cryptocurrencies, we as the community, when you're actively participating, I would say you would have a better chance of having your voice heard. I mean, it's still difficult, but with sufficient, backing of the community, you will get that, influence, and in a way, because the code is open source, because of this, all these deliberations have to be public enough so that people can say, oh yeah, we're behind this decision or whatnot, which is very, very different than the US dollar. But we also have to realize that the US dollar, unlike Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies like Firo, the US dollar is a weapon for the USA. And they know that. That is one of their biggest values. I mean, Jerome Powell actually said, like, the UN actually said, can you please stop increasing your interest rates and stuff like that and all this, and they're like, no, we only care about the US. We don't care about anyone else. This, I mean, like, maybe rightfully so, right? And because we are the world reserve currency and no one else comes close to it, well, too bad. You just have to accept that, right? And if we are thinking, how are we going to even like begin to challenging such a dominance? I mean, like, look, people say, oh yeah, Bitcoin challenging the dominance of US dollars. Everyone still talks about the Bitcoin price in US dollars. So you know what I'm saying? So I would say it's more nuanced, right? I'm not saying that the protocol and the emission or whatever should never change, but it should not be easy to change, and it needs wide consensus that is not done behind closed doors. And that's kind of what's happening with the Federal Reserve. And everyone's like waiting with bated breath. Are they going to print more? Are they going to increase, adjust interest rates? Yeah. And only this small group of people know. So I think that's the difference. And this isn't, I guess, blockchain kind of enables this money that's more community owned rather than a central bank or a country. And I think that's really, really important, because I feel that money is in essential infrastructure, right? Like internet is information infrastructure. Money, or like, Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, is basically financial infrastructure that is neutral. Similarly, the internet, I mean, may not be perfect, but it's neutral-ish, right? Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, great point. At least people with a blockchain project, at least they can have a say as stakeholders. They can have a say in changing the monetary policy. Whereas, with the Fed, unless you are very, very someone in the top circle, part of the 0.1%, then you can have tips and things like that about what's going to happen next.
And remember, if you don't like what the core team does or what the code, you can fork it and say, "Yep, I don't want to have I don't want to change the emission. Yeah. We stick to the one that we think is right." So yeah.
As simple as that. It's just the barrier to an alternative is just as simple as that and as low as that in blockchain projects.
Yeah.
But with the Fed, you just have to remain in expectation of what they're going to do next, and if it goes in your direction, that's good. If it goes against your interests, then too bad for you. So yeah, great point. And again, it shows how blockchain technology, not just blockchain, but other technologies, allow people to have an actual say in
technologies enable social consensus, and that's exactly the thing. That's why I don't think we should be talking about code is law. That means bugs are also correct. I'm just utilizing a feature, right? And yeah, there have been bugs in even Bitcoin, right? Which are very serious ones. So, I would very, I just wanted to kind of say this because this is a pet peeve, that we should not say that code is law is hard coded. No, code can always be changed. It is the social consensus that you need to get it changed. And people should stop talking about code is law, because code is an expression of what the will of the community is, rather than, it's in the code, we can't change it, or that's total rubbish.
Yeah, well, you know this better than me, probably, but I suspect that people who keep pushing on this code is low and it shouldn't be changed narrative are the people who are changing the code, right? They have control of the code, and basically what they're trying to sell you is that you should accept whatever they put in the code, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure this is pretty much their goal. So yeah, talking about how governments are working basically against the interests of people. There's these what they call CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, which are projects at the moment that many governments are working on, for instance, in the US, but also at the European Union. So the European Union is 440 million people or more. So many countries, maybe 27 or so. They are working on this project, which was probably, I don't know what you think, but it was probably motivated by a fear towards crypto, because in late 2017 everybody wanted to get into crypto, and probably many of these governments, although crypto is still very small in terms of market capitalization, it's just maybe 1 trillion right now, or 1.5 trillion or so. Even if it's very small, I'm sure governments were very afraid at that moment that people would switch gradually to blockchain-based projects rather than stay with the national currency, which they control, these governments. So they initiated these CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, which are basically intended to replace cash with these digital currencies. And of course, the problem with this is that, like you touched on earlier, on this subject is that the government can control these digital currencies. They can see who's spending what, who's receiving money from whom and how much, and they can even cancel you from the economy, really, by just making you unable to receive money or to spend any of it. And we've seen already an example, like we talked earlier before we started the interview. This happened already with the Canadian government when they froze the bank accounts of the truck movement, Freedom Convoy activists. So this is a reality, and it happened in Canada. People think it's a democracy, but of course it's not. What do you think about this CBDC trend among many governments around the world? And have you seen a growing interest in privacy coins following these CBDC projects?
I think that's a great question. I mean, CBDCs are one of these things that to me are one of the most scary things that I feel that people aren't actually realizing. People may not even know what is a CBDC, right? And I mean, even I find myself, falling into this feeling like, oh yeah, it's so much easier to pay digitally. I don't have to carry, cash and coins and stuff like that. And I understand the allure, right? But what is very interesting is that this was actually from someone in the US Federal Reserve, and he was actually asking, no one can tell me in very clear terms why we need a CBDC. Because, all right, if I want to transfer money to you, I can Venmo it, I can transfer it from bank to bank. There's all these apps to do that, right? What added value does a CBDC add to that? Are you saying that, oh yeah, more inclusion or stuff like that, and what is it that makes CBDCs this must have? And some people say, oh well, China's doing it. Well, then he's like, yeah, it's obvious why China would want to do it, because they are an authoritarian state, right? Which therefore they want to control their citizens. They want to say, yes, if you're not towing the line, if you're not doing certain behavior, I'm going to cut you off from your finances. And I mean, it's already in place. It's a social credit score. And I think one of the examples, because I follow this guy called Su Xiaodong, and he's a bit of an ass. He is a MMA fighter that goes around challenging all these traditional Chinese Tai Chi masters or wushu or whatnot, and beats them up really, really badly. Okay. And yeah, he's obviously an asshole with a chip on his shoulder, right? But at the same time, I wouldn't say that what he's doing, especially if it's agreed by the other side, like, yeah, let's fight and I beat you up, like, yeah, okay, so what? Like, it's agreed upon, right? But he was calling out this Tai Chi master and saying, yeah, your Tai Chi is kind of bullshit and stuff like that. And instead of fighting him, this Tai Chi master reported it to the authorities. And as a result, his social credit score was demoted. And because of that, he couldn't travel, he couldn't stay in nice hotels, he couldn't fly, he couldn't take loans and all of that. And it kind of goes to show, like, wow, if you don't toe the official line, like, that's kind of petty, right? Oh, I just don't like your Tai Chi, and then suddenly now there's like very real ramifications to because the Chinese government is like, oh yeah, how dare you disrespect our traditional martial arts and stuff like that, right? And I feel that is a very, very slippery slope. Obviously, I would say that there are some CBDCs that are talking about privacy, right? But I would say I'm not sure how serious it is being taken. A lot of the ways that they are saying is kind of like, oh, I think pseudonymity is fine or stuff like that. There hasn't been a really like a big answer to that. And my worry is that with the rush to CBDCs, because they're all like, oh, I want to be the first to do the CBDC, especially in a lot of third world countries where, they want to implement just to say they implement it, right? It's a vanity project. They're not going to bother about privacy because it's a lot easier, and it serves their purpose not to give people privacy, because they're like, oh yeah, we can see economics and we can see how money is being spent. It's great for our planning, right? But if you think
they can catch the bad guys too.
Catch the bad guys. There's no more money laundering. All of that we can do. Well, or first of all, I don't think it will solve money laundering, because one of the major ways to do money laundering is trade-based money laundering, which is basically I sell you some good and I mark up the price. How are you going to? The CBDC won't detect that, right? And take a look. Money laundering happens with our financial system, and bankers don't go to jail. So this is why money laundering continues to happen within our financial system. It's a different topic altogether. But I feel that a CBDC, at least with the financial institutions, they also have to care about their customers. They have to care about their reputation. They're also not going to breach privacy willy-nilly, because they will lose the trust of their customers. But with a CBDC, it's like directly with the central bank, right? Which has no sorts of, they don't care about you are a false customer. You are, there's no way that you can switch away from them, right? So I feel that, it's a really big worry. And like in the US, they talk about, oh yeah, the right to bear arms. I can rise up against my government if they're being tyrannical. Well, guess what? If you may have guns, but I cut you off from money. What you're gonna do? Barter trade? Yeah, maybe. It is a CBDC weaponizes money, and money is already being weaponized. It's just that there are quite a few steps to weaponize it. Like for example, in Malaysia, we have the Anti-Corruption Commission, right? If you're on the wrong side of the government, or your opposition and whatnot, they'll like launch an investigation and you make your life really hell. But at least there's some investigation. At least there's I wouldn't say it's ideal, but it's not like click a button, froze, that sort of thing, right? And this kind of makes it too easy, that it eternalizes power. in a way, it is in the same position of US dollar right now because it is the world currency and whatnot. It can do anything that it wants because they control so much stuff, right? But in the same way, CBDC no longer means it's become very hard to displace a government that can cut off access, right? Like I see some dissenting opinion, I see some dissenting political party, I can cut access off, right? So unless the people rise up and riot and whatnot, that is a very, very high bar, and it's generally not good, right? And I feel that if we don't take it seriously, even if we're not even talking about CBDCs, but talking about the digitalization of money, we are going to end up in a situation where we become too reliant, because at least with cash, I can at least store it somehow. I at least can have some amount, there's a degree of anonymity there, but there is a war on cash. In China, it's very hard to use physical cash. In many countries, physical cash is like, why are you paying me with this stuff, right? And one of the countries that actually still embraces cash is surprisingly Germany. And Germany, is one of the most advanced economies in Europe or maybe the world, right? And they still embrace cash because they came from a world where, they saw the power of fascist governments and what that could do. And they're like, yeah, I got to keep cash and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's my thought on that. I do feel that cryptocurrencies really fill that gap, like being this alternative, right? I'm not saying that it's going to replace fiat, to me that's kind of impossible, but by the mere existence of cryptocurrencies and as a viable alternative makes it so that fiat or CBDCs can't go overboard and crazy, because if they go crazy, people will easily switch. And that's why I feel people are kind of losing the plot. What was the things that did very well in the last crypto bull market? Stable coins, okay, algorithmic stable coins that's based on the US dollars, or dog coins, right? Coins that with meme coins or NFTs and stuff like that. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with this. They are experiments, but at the same time, no one is talking about, oh, payments are not sexy, currency is not sexy anymore. And people have to go back, because when the shit hits the fan, this is what really matters. Not your NFTs, not your algorithmic stable coin, not your dog coin. It is this alternative payment mechanism. And I feel for that to happen, you need privacy. Bitcoin doesn't have privacy. Ethereum doesn't have privacy. You need to hide the sender. You need to hide the receiver. You need to hide the amounts. And you need to do all of this so that people cannot just lock down your funds, lock down and censor your transactions. So I feel that privacy cryptocurrencies in particular really feel this need, even now, like, as an offshore bank account, there's no real such thing as an offshore bank account. Privacy cryptocurrencies also can feel that need as well, right? And I think it's a really important thing if we want, sure, it can be used for nefarious activities, but it also enables a lot of things. It enables us to fight against tyranny. It is something that allows us to continue to fight, and people should see it as that, not as criminals will use it, right? Because like VPNs, no, everyone uses it. Like, why I founded the VPN was because my government was starting to censor content that I could see, which always starts with innocent intentions, and it creeps up. Like, with CBDC, oh yeah, it's fine, it's all good, we're not going to ban cash, but it creeps and creeps and creeps. So like, for example, in Malaysia, when they started censoring, I'm going to censor porn. Oh, okay, fine, whatever, we're a Muslim country, maybe that's fine. People didn't kick up too much of a fuss. Then they're like, oh, let's censor P2P because it's illegal stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm getting kind of annoyed now, because now I can't download certain things. And the next thing, all right, we're going to censor stuff that political speech that is against it. It always creeps up, right? And CBDCs are that slippery slope that gives them the power to do that. And I feel that we should reject it, because there's really, what is the benefit of a CBDC? The CBDC allows automatic taxation, negative interest rates just implemented like that, right? what the heck are you going to do? There's no way to escape. And I feel that is a power, even though it's less efficient, in a way, democracy is deliberately inefficient because you have to make sure that all the parties that you consult everyone, and that's the beauty of democracy, is not the most efficient or like, the most effective form of thing. It's a matter of making sure that no one gets targeted and everyone compromise. The whole feeling is about compromise with each other. And that's why I feel that as we see the internet as such an important point of neutrality, we also should see cryptocurrencies, especially ones that are like us or like Bitcoin or whatever that you support, Monero, Firo, whatnot, as important neutrality preserving as financial infrastructure. Because look, the world needs money, and you need a neutral form of money, not just the US dollar or something that can be turned off and your savings just disappear like that.
So. Yeah, absolutely. No, great answer. And with CBDCs, everyone in that country is just one click away from being thrown back into the Middle Ages, and with the hope of surviving only with barter. Indeed, that's basically what can happen with CBDCs, and it will happen if it's implemented, because it's just too easy for governments. And you also touched on the subject, which is that of stable coins. It's an important one because one thing that is putting off many people regarding crypto is the volatility of these coins. So what is your approach at Firo regarding this? Because it's clearly a barrier to adoption, right? This volatility. People don't like volatility of things that they have, of coins in general. How do you see things, and how do you intend to solve maybe this problem?
I think volatility is a byproduct of a nascent economy, right? And one that, because we're not very big, right? Like the total market cap of crypto is not even 1 trillion. I know it's maybe like 600-700 million or so, which really is kind of like a drop of water, right? And obviously, I'm not really a speculator, but if when you buying into any of these cryptocurrencies, no one expects stability and whatnot. But what I do think, you can either hold it and hope that it goes up, or you can use it as a medium of exchange or storage of a certain proportion of your wealth, which may go up, it may go down, but it's a hedge, right? Like, at least I have this other alternative that, as long as there's liquidity, like let's put it this way. I don't think Bitcoin is going to go anywhere. It will go up, it'll go down, but it's not going to like disappear overnight, right? And I think that's really important. And volatility is a part of free markets. Like if no one's going to control it, people can like go up and down. That's what it is, right? And you will never escape this, because everything is denominated in fiat, and you cannot escape this unless you overthrow the government and say, oh yeah, government, now there's no such thing as our own national currency, we're just going to rely on Bitcoin or something like that. Yeah, if that happens, then things would be stable because you have an economy that's denominated in the cryptocurrency, right? But right now, cryptocurrencies now have lots of fiat gateways. That means you can convert them quite easily between fiat and things. So I'm not saying that, we should be abandoning, we shouldn't be saying never use fiat. Some are very extreme, like, oh yeah, fiat is bad and whatnot. Well, you to live in this world, it's an unfortunate thing that you still need fiat, right? And building those gateways between crypto and fiat is still very important to make it easy to spend. And once people actually start using it to spend and whatnot, and pay in this thing, I would feel that once there's real usage beyond speculation, and like cryptocurrency payments are more regular, and we as an industry are much more larger cap, that volatility would decrease. Like, even if you take a look at, okay, I would say, because Bitcoin has the largest thing, and even then, it's like the history is not that long. It's like 2009, right? It's not that long. volatility actually has been reducing as the market cap has grown lower, has grown larger. Volatility is decreasing, and I think that's the case. Money isn't like, like the US dollar wasn't built like in 10 years or something like that. It gradually achieved its dominance, and similarly we have to give time in this nascent space for it to grow. And we have to realize we're fighting against the big boys, right? Literally like government-backed money. And this is why it's really important for the crypto industry or people to realize that, look, cryptocurrencies you shouldn't just see as a way to get rich in fiat terms, but it's also about an alignment of values. And I feel like with this last wave of people joining crypto has unfortunately been about getting rich, and we need to stop talking about. I mean, yes, we can talk a little bit about that. Is the bait, right? But we should be thinking more about, when the content that we put out, what are we standing for? What is our values? Rather than like, oh, I think Firo is going to go up to like, $110 and 100. It's the influencers, it's the social media, it's what people report that sets the narrative. If we talk about why is our thing meaningful, seeing these things happen, like I think that, like, for example, like very weird example that may get me into trouble for whatever, like during Iran was having like a bunch of floods. This was a couple of years back, and because they are a sanctioned country, no one could donate, no one could help. People use Firo to actually send, and okay, not a huge amount, like $20,000, $30,000 or so. I can't remember the exact amount, but it shows that, look, that's actually a good use case. I would say, these people were accountable for how the money was spent. It's being donated to the local charities, but just because they are Iranian, screw them all. I think that's really wrong. Because if we want those people to escape from tyranny, we also have to help them as well, right? Or they have no other choice but to accept it.
Yeah, excellent point. At this stage, yeah, probably won't be like a medium of exchange for everyday activities, expenditures, and so on. But yeah, a hedge against against the financial system, really, which is based on the boom and bust principle, right? And that's what they claim anyway. They accept the boom and bust cycle. Except that one day there might be a big bust.
There's one exception though, which is if you view cryptocurrencies as a method of payment for what we call like Web3 space, right? Because if you think, like, one of the things that I really like about Ethereum was, okay, I'm not a big fan of NFTs, but NFTs and all of this were one of the first, I would say, crypto native way to pay. Like, you couldn't buy with US dollars, you had to have cryptocurrencies. And if you take a look at the cryptocurrency like value, it's 1 Ethereum, 2 Ethereum, no matter what the value is, that's what it's going to be, right? And that created what we call like a crypto native economy. And that, I would say, eventually, as time passes, would lead to a more stable economy because people are using it to buy and sell. And so that means stop thinking about, you have the natural normal goods and stuff, which yes, you can still use crypto to buy, but now there are, like, I would say, crypto native economies and ecosystems that can only be paid in crypto. And that to me is the step for, like, wide adoption of crypto, rather than just compete in the space that's already been already dominated. Yes, we can still compete, but now we were like, blue ocean strategy, create your own new economy and have it crypto native. So I think that's exciting as well.
Yeah, exactly. True. There's these niches which create demand exclusively for certain cryptocurrency, Ethereum in this case, the Ethereum NFTs. And yeah, you can pay only with Ethereum. So it creates demand for Ethereum. And if one of these niches sometimes at some point in the future becomes very, very big, automatically the associated cryptocurrency will also become big. But just to get back to the power of hedging, that crypto provides. Many. I mean, at the moment, interest rates are going up, and they will probably still go up in the US and then everywhere else. And it will probably make some countries go bust. Some countries which have a heavy debt in US dollar terms. So this is a massive principle because it will throw tens, if not hundreds of millions of people in an awful situation where their country isn't capable of reimbursing its debt. And you have one example of one country, which is El Salvador, which has started buying Bitcoin. I think it was last year. So what do you think about this event? Do you think it is a trend? And what do you see with your project? Are you being approached more and more by like state entities or not necessarily?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, let's face it. I feel like the El Salvador thing, while it is a means to an end, I think it's an interesting piece of news, and it paves the way and opens the mind to other countries to think, oh, maybe this is a possibility. To me, it was a publicity stunt. People. I have friends that went to El Salvador and whatnot. Adoption isn't really happening, right? Like it's just a typical third world country. Like, let's do something cool to get the headlines, and that's it. I think it's a good. I mean, I'm still for it in the sense that it brings publicity. It makes it people believe, oh, maybe this is possible. But the actual implementation, the intention of it, to me, is not quite there. And I although I'm a big supporter of cryptocurrencies, we all know it's volatile, and to kind of the Taleb was, I think, is it Taleb was his name? But no, Bukele. He was saying that, oh yeah, I just bought Bitcoin from my phone. I'm like, wow, you're using your country's finances to basically gamble, right? I mean, there are ideals and there's also gambling, right? And I do think that it makes sense to have part of I would really welcome for countries to take like Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrencies as part of their reserve, right? In the same way gold is. Like, if you take a look at the Venezuela government, they had gold reserves in the UK, and they will block access to it, which is like, that's the problem with physical stuff, right? And in a way, Bitcoin in a way makes sense. So I hope that more countries like that do this. Unfortunately, it seems like the only countries that kind of doing this is maybe North Korea, which is unfortunately not a great bastion of freedom and stuff like that. But and hopefully we'll see other more mainstream countries do that. So I'm for it, but also kind of cautious and saying to abandon completely and use your country as an experiment for cryptocurrency is also very dangerous as well, right? Now, but we are seeing increased interest for adoption of blockchain technologies, and I would say public blockchains in many sense make a lot of sense in certain use case scenarios. And for me, our technology that we're building on the voting stuff has some interest from the government. That has interest. But as a cryptocurrency, why would they embrace something that is basically a competition to their own national currency, right? They are more interested on potential applications of it, and I think that's the correct way to look at it. But at the same time, they have to come up with regulations that that kind of take into account cryptocurrencies in mind, to kind of legitimize it, because some people are like, we should leave crypto as totally unregulated and okay, I'm not a big fan of regulation, but I do feel there has to be some accountability, right? We've seen so many crypto projects just scam people and stuff like that, and there needs to be frameworks to deal with this type of new type of crime or fraud type of things. And so I feel like the government can should be embracing cryptocurrencies, because if they don't, they're going to be left behind. But at the same time, unfortunately for privacy cryptocurrencies, we have seen a war against us, which is kind of sad, because if their aim is to prevent illegitimate activity, they are actually making it worse. Why? Okay, so for example, like Monero or like Firo, right? Where is the major sources of liquidity? If you want to buy and sell Firo, they're all on centralized exchanges right now. Centralized exchanges require KYC and stuff. So, well, isn't that anti privacy? Okay, like to me, if you're dealing with fiat, you have to play with their rules. They have to know if you're doing conversions and whatnot, there's no kind of escaping that, right? And I feel that, there has to be some sort of minimal amounts of level of they are effectively kind of like banks. You have to treat them as such, right? But if you say ban them from centralized cryptocurrencies, what happens then? It goes to decentralized exchanges or more dark markets or stuff. And as a result, privacy becomes only for criminals, right? And now, at least with the centralized exchange, you get some insight. Regulators can say, oh yeah, what is this being used for? I can still freeze, I can still track the conversions. But if you push us out completely, you're going to make it into a criminal-only currency which you have very, very little control of, because you don't have any sight into the DEXs. You don't know who is transacting and whatnot. And that actually makes the situation a lot worse. So yeah, I kind of forgot what was your initial question because I went off this tangent. But
no, it's all right. Yeah, it was about El Salvador and what it meant that they made legal tender and they it to their reserves, I think, as well.
I wanted to kind of just to educate people, because especially with privacy coins, people say, oh, isn't privacy coins illegal? Aren't governments banning it now? Isn't it isn't the FATF travel rule and all of that, doesn't it make privacy coins illegal? Well, first of all, the Financial Action Task Force, the regulations, privacy coins are actually completely compliant with even the newest FATF guidelines. All that it says is that additional care needs to be made when you are dealing with anonymity enhancing cryptocurrencies. It is a risk factor. You can do, it doesn't say you have to ban it. It just says it is a risk factor. What else is a risk factor? Well, stuff that's very volatile, or stuff there's also, what else is, these are all listed actually in the financial as large amounts being transacted. All these are basic things. This doesn't mean that large transactions are illegal. No, it's just like, oh yeah, this is something that I probably should pay a little bit more attention to. And that's fine, So if you're transacting in the privacy cryptocurrency, pay a little bit more attention. If you suddenly, this guy, moves like $10 million into the cryptocurrency and tries to deposit it into an exchange, then yeah, ask questions. Where did this money come from, right? This is standard procedure, right? And the fact that it's on a exchange that should know their customers, right? How is it illegal? It's the same thing. It's just one risk factor, right? And the other methods of combating money laundering and all of that still apply to cryptocurrencies as well as cash. So the only thing that privacy cryptocurrencies make difficult is basically tracking the P2P transactions. First of all, FATF does not say that you need to reveal that. FATF only requires disclosures from a custodian to another custodian, or to where you are holding money on behalf of someone, and that's fine. That kind of makes sense, right? If I am transacting with people holding other people's money, I should have some accountability. But it does not say oh yeah, I can't use the thing. And because if the exchanges are doing KYC, it does not matter whether you're using a privacy cryptocurrency or not, because when the exchanges sends to the other exchanges, say, oh yeah, this money is from Reuben because this currency and that. So there is nothing in the law that prevents this. It only says it's a risk factor. If someone's using a privacy cryptocurrency, maybe you want to take a look and ask a bit more questions to say, what's the use of this for? That's fine, right? But what has happened is that because of blockchain analysis companies, and these companies are being paid to analyze blockchains and de-anonymize people, and they say, oh, it's for law enforcement and stuff like that and whatnot. First of all, it's not a perfect science. Blockchain analysis is kind of like guesswork, statistical. There are some cases where yes, but a lot of it is like, yeah, there's a probability that this is not great. And the actual usage of blockchain analysis in actually like, finding like small criminals and whatnot is very, very low. Only like if you get hacked for like 100 million or 200 million, then, oh yeah, the blockchain analysis companies come in. But the blockchain analysis companies have been lobbying all the regulators to say, you have to require the currency to be able to be blockchain analyzed or chain analysis, so that to make this thing legit, which is wrong. Basically, they are pushing this narrative because they want business, right? You have to use my service to be a regulated exchange. And if I cannot look into your exchange, then maybe, because then people say, oh well, this cryptocurrency I don't need the chain analysis for, so why should I subscribe to it, right? But therefore, they have been saying mandate chain analysis, when it's only a single tool and not a very good one at that, in combating money laundering and stuff like that. So I kind of want to just share this, that look, privacy cryptocurrency isn't illegal. There are some countries like Korea where the regulators are like, yeah, ban this and this cryptocurrencies, which really are totally dumb. You can see they're even banning some fake privacy cryptocurrencies that call themselves privacy coins, but have the same level of privacy as Bitcoin. So why aren't you banning Bitcoin? Why are you banning Ethereum and that has all this other stuff as well? So it's very arbitrary and not based in fact, but because exchanges are businesses, they're like, do I fight the regulator or do I keep these coins? It's easier for me to delist, right? So I just wanted to let people know that privacy coins are not illegal in most cases. There are some places which they are, but they are not illegal per se. The Financial Action Task Force guidelines do not say you have to ban them. You just say, take a bit more care when you see this type of currencies being transacted. And I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the regulators are just plain stupid, and they make things worse, and they have helped the criminals actually, like you said. So, can you tell us about the next big steps for Firo? What are the next big steps that are coming in the near future, and what will they change really?
Cool. So there are two things that are really important right now. First of all, we have something called Lelanta Spark, which is our new privacy protocol. And it really enables a new level of privacy, because now I can give you an address, right? And that address, anyone can pay to it, but I cannot look that address up on the blockchain. Like for example, with an Ethereum address, like I give you an address and people just put it in an Explorer and they're like, oh yeah, look at all these transactions now. Even with Bitcoin, they give you an address, you can see all the other transactions that has happened from it. Here, I just give you an address and I can reuse it. It's like an email address for your money, whereby I can share this publicly, but I'm not compromising my privacy. It also hides amounts. It also hides, sender and receiver. So it's a really new level of privacy for Firo that we're really excited to bring. And it's done in a very nice way that is modular, so that as new technology comes, we can upgrade different components in that. So we're very excited but that's kind of geeky, right? The other thing that's really interesting is that, yes, we have this Elysium tokenization layer, which allows people to create their own tokens and use the Firo's privacy. So as I mentioned, it's like privacy as a service, right? And I'm really interested. So now there are some projects like Oracle, they are looking to be able to bridge other assets from other chains. Like for example, You want a USDT or DAI, you want to bridge it into Firo and use the privacy features and transact in this US dollar thing in a private manner. Sure, I'm not a big fan of the US dollar, but if it's going to bring utility to my chain, I'm gonna be like, yeah, sure, okay, or you want to make a dog coin, yeah, sure, why not? Now it's privacy preserving as well. Now, the other thing that's really cool is that this is Elysium. This is, I would call, our first iteration of supporting custom assets. Now, the next version, which is what we call Spark Assets, which is based on Lelantus Spark, also hides the asset type. So what that means is that when you are transacting on Firo's blockchain, you don't even know what asset is being transferred. So right now it's like, oh yeah, USDT is being transferred, or Dogecoin is being transferred. I may hide the sender and receiver an amount, but I still know, some Dogecoin is being transferred. Here in this case, and why is that a problem, right? So for example, if I'm bridging all these assets into Firo, right, and I'm bridging USDT, bridging USDC, or I'm bridging, Bitcoin, right? If not a lot of people bridge over, your anonymity set, your potential deniability is only with the people within that single asset, which is why, with some other mixers, like, oh yeah, everyone's doing USDT, even though there's DAI, not many people are using DAI, so the anonymity set is like, it's like a chicken and egg. No one's going to do it because there's not many people using it, and therefore no one uses it, right? Spark Asset removes that thing because with any single transaction on the blockchain, right, regardless of which asset moves, increases the anonymity of everyone else, because this asset movie could be a Dogecoin, it could be a stablecoin. We don't know, right? And that means that even if you are a limited user of that, when you are sending within each other, everyone's transaction increases everyone else's anonymity, and we think that's a very powerful concept. So that is kind of the next feature that we're thinking about. We already have the paper and the cryptography worked out, and we want to see ourselves like, look, now a lot of chains are like, there's a question of like, how censorship resistant they are, like now Ethereum has like validators, enforcing OFAC sanctions and stuff like that. I think there is value in having a cryptocurrency that like Firo, which is a cryptocurrency and also meant to be used for payments, but it's also like kind of like a censorship resistant chain that, is not going to be, anyone can spin out a node, anyone can do the mining and transact in a way with other assets from other chains. So we are not maxis, we believe in a multi-chain ecosystem, and we want to support that by making Firo privacy infrastructure for the rest of the cryptocurrency space, and also for voting protocols as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It sounds fantastic, really. Yeah, it's a young technology, so the progress, the improvements are made in bounds and leaps, like you said earlier. And it's really. I mean, I'm geek and I'm just amazed. It's just wonderful. What can you tell us about other privacy protocols in terms of their features, and maybe what would be different from Firo?
Monero is the largest cryptocurrency, private cryptocurrency in terms of market cap. They are purely focused on being privacy cryptocurrency. They don't have any sort of like asset support or stuff like that. It's just meant to be money, and that's fine. But at the same time, the way currently that their privacy mechanism works is something called ring signatures, and the current ring size is like 16. So what that means is like this is a kind of like crude way to explain it, but so if I go into an elevator and I let out a fart and I'm the only one in the elevator, everyone's like, yeah, Reuben, you are the one who farted in this elevator, right? Yeah. But the way Monero does it is like I drag 15 other people into the elevator with me, and I let out a fart, and I'm like, could be this one out of 16 people, right? But at the same time, this approach, wow, is quite good. has its limitations, right? What happens is like, yeah, I can bring in 50 new people, 15, but I see like a common trend, like Reuben's always in this elevator. So with repeated transactions, I am kind of revealing that it's probably Reuben farting, all right? I'm of course obviously oversimplifying it, but this is just a very easy way to kind of see it, right? And there are other types like Mimblewimble, which is being used in green and other stuff. If you don't add any other type of privacy features, the way their privacy features work is I bring a bunch of people into the lift and we all fart together. So all the farts kind of like intermingle and you're like, oh, what's happening, right? But it's not great because if you are actually like, if you have those like heat cameras, you can actually see whose part is whose. So I mean, like, there is actually a study to break Mimblewimble privacy like that. That means basically before it mingles, see which butt it came up from. So okay. So our approach is kind of different, where basically you go into the lift, you fart, but you make it disappear. And at any time in the future, I can make it appear. And I can also pass the right to redeem that fart to someone else that may not have ever even been in the lift. It could be like, hey, Maddie, I want to pass you my fart. I pass it to you, and now you can redeem it at any time. So it's like your potential anonymity set is with everyone that has gone into the lift, and maybe even more because you don't even need to make a fart to get the right to redeem a fart anymore. And that's basically our privacy in a nutshell, which we think is quite superior. Zcash is also another big privacy cryptocurrency, and they have really good technology as well. But the systems that they build are very, very complex. And while they are open source, they have started moving to this weird, not MIT license, their own weird software licensing stuff, which is kind of weird and confusing. Then they open sourced it again. I don't know. It's a bit of a clusterfuck, right? And it, in a way, it's very clear that Zcash is more about we are doing this for Zcash rather than doing it for privacy as a whole. You can see all their efforts is only for Zcash. And as a result, their privacy protocol is really good. It's really good. But it is very, very complex, so that only a few people in this world actually truly understand it. Even if you're a cryptographer, it is not easy to understand the small nuances and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with it. Eventually, maybe it'll become more commonplace. But it also means that you become very reliant on the core team, that you cannot displace them easily, because if they are the only ones that know they know how to turn the key, then, well, it's open source in name only, right? And that actually happened. So Zcash actually had a vulnerability in the early years, and it was live for 2 years, and that bug would have allowed people to print coins out of thin air. And that bug was like, live for quite a long time, and they knew about it, but because they're like, only a very few people will be able to exploit this, so we're going to keep it down the low until we can come to the point we fix it, right? So in a way, it's kind of crappy. I do believe they have good intentions, and they have really some of the best engineers. So I'm not crapping on Zcash, but it's kind of like it's a balance, right? And I feel that while their protocol technically is really good, our protocol also has value in the sense that it is much easier to audit. It's very modular. That means I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this, and they're all based on very, I would say, well-established cryptographic building blocks, and which also makes it a lot easier for people to implement and audit. And also like, hey, look, if we as a Firo team, suddenly become tyrannical, other researchers can take over and do things. So I do think there is value there. So I think these are the two main big privacy cryptocurrency projects. Obviously, there are some of, I would say, friendly competitors like Beam, which is doing really good work as well. Particle, which is also like doing something like a decentralized marketplace, which is also very interesting. So yeah, we all kind of competitors, but at the same time, we are seeing. I feel that if we work together as a whole, we are going to see good things that's going to happen for privacy cryptocurrencies as a whole, rather than seeing them as pure competition. But yes, Monero is competition, but and we are small, but in a way our technology has furthered theirs. We have benefited from theirs, and we also are in a good position because we are smaller, we are more agile, and we'll be able to develop things a lot faster and stuff like that. So I think this kind of like summarizes it. I'm big supporters of any privacy crypto, like legit privacy cryptocurrency projects. But I know Monero Zcash is the big one. There's something like Pirate Chain, there's Conceal. They're all doing different things slightly, right? But in terms of privacy protocol research, I would say is Monero, Zcash, us, and maybe Beam. That there are, I would say, like, really extending the frontiers of privacy research, and also STAT network on Ethereum as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, myself, I've been following your project since at least 2015, and yeah, one of the things that has really impressed me a lot, it's how much effort you put in research, including through academically published articles.
Yes.
So yeah, this is one of the things that has impressed me a lot about Firo, and yeah, which made me pay a lot more attention to Firo than other privacy projects. So as a few final words, Reuben, can you give some advice to activists and communities who are not familiar with blockchain technology, with privacy protocols? What would you tell them? What would you recommend to them to look at or try or whatever?
Well, I think one of the best ways is to install, get down and dirty, with any of this, especially privacy preserving cryptocurrencies. You should start with those, because if you're an activist and whatnot, that really matters to you. And I think one way of doing it is to install a wallet like Cake Wallet or Stack Wallet, which supports different privacy cryptocurrencies, or even Bitcoin, even though it's not private, but just because it's the big thing, and get used to putting your address out, sending and receiving, and learning how to look up your transactions on the blockchain, so okay, what does this mean? How secure I am? Because like there are some fake privacy coins that everything is transparent and that you can take a look at. And I think one of the best ways that costs nothing, if you're an activist or that you're building some sort of stuff, just put up a Firo address, a Monero address, get people to pay using it and get to using it. I think that is the best way to actually get down and dirty. The technology has actually become a lot more user-friendly, like a mobile wallet, you don't have to download the entire blockchain and stuff like that. Just send and receive, just a couple of minutes to set up your wallet. I would say try that out, because you want to be able, like, if stuff starts cracking down and stuff like that, you want to be able to be very familiar of like, okay, how am I going to convert this into fiat? How am I going to send or receive this and all of that very immediately, rather than, oh no, now I have to figure this all out right now. So I think that's really important. And there's a reason, like it or not, if you take a look at darknet markets, of course, I don't have a particular opinion of them. Some of it is good, some of it is bad. But there's a reason why darknet markets have been, moving towards privacy preserving cryptocurrencies like Monero, right? Because they realize that, yeah, when doing this type of stuff, it is better to not reveal your stuff. And I would say that, using Bitcoin or using things like Ethereum can easily dox you or reveal yourself. So I would say, get used to using privacy preserving cryptocurrencies. Or heck, you can just try mining for fun. It's not going to make you a lot of money, but it'll get you, used to being part of the ecosystem, or, for the ultimate, running your own node or things like that. So it all starts somewhere, and the easiest way is to just install a wallet and begin taking responsibility of your self-sovereignty, because people aren't often used to doing that, right? We're always thinking, oh yeah, if I lost my bank password, I can call them up and get my money back. With cryptocurrencies, no, you are your own bank, and that has a whole set of responsibilities as well. And another thing to also consider is that if you're looking into getting into like accepting cryptocurrency payments, or putting a lot of money in it, do realize that it is a huge privacy risk if you are not using a privacy cryptocurrency or you use a centralized entity. Just very recently, there was this entity called Celsius, which was this crypto lending and all this type of platform that was offering yield, and they publish everyone's balances and legal names online in a court document, right? And now you can see people like, oh, there's someone has 10 million or 50, or they lost 10 or 15 million and whatnot. And we have actually, real life cases, not just from Celsius, but from other leaks or from people showing off or putting an address out and saying, oh my God, this guy has 100 million or so. There was this guy in Russia that got, kidnapped, strangled, thought that he was dead, and because he was robbed from all his cryptocurrencies. Because you can have all your secret system, but if I'm coming to your house and hitting you with a hammer, you're going to give it up, right? So be very aware. Privacy is not just for, privacy can be used for activism. It's not just for criminals as well, but it's also for your safety, right? Because why would I use a cryptocurrency, which basically is your bank account published online for everyone to see? So I hope people realize that. And as an activist, especially, really, start using privacy cryptocurrency. It may be Firo, it may be Monero, it may be something else, but I think you should at least be conversant with all the basics and also how to convert it into cash when you need it in a privacy preserving manner. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent indeed. The best way to learn something is with the hands-on approach.
Yes.
And get your hands dirty. Well, it was a pleasure, Reuben, to have you, and to hear your ideas and vision of things. You have a big experience from the inside of the crypto space, so it's very valuable for myself, and I think for many people. So thank you so much for taking the time, for joining me today. And best of luck with your project. I absolutely love it. I will keep an eye on it in the coming years, like I have been already in the past. Fingers crossed. Hopefully Firo will become a big project and will help many people take back their monetary sovereignty, which is a big part of the individual sovereignty, right?
Yes. So one of our favorite mottos is like citizens, not suspects, right? We shouldn't be all treated like criminals. We are all citizens to begin with, and governments have to remember that. Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. Excellent point. All right. Thank you so much, Reuben. You take care of yourself. And looking forward to hearing news from the Firo project.
Thank you, Maddie.